Hi, everybody. I'm Patty King from the Rockland Public Library. I want to thank you so much for coming tonight. Tonight's event is part of our Thursday night event series at the Rockland Public Library. It's been a strange year, but we've still kind of kept going with our Thursday night events. Before Jeremy begins talking tonight, I'm going to tell you about some upcoming events at the library. Next week, we have I think an important event for any time, but certainly for 2020, we have an event called Creating Calm in a Chaotic World. This year, we've had so many changes. We've had so many things happening. We've had a pandemic. We've had political unrest. Now we have the holiday season, and then we have typical stressors. And I feel like this year has even made some of the calmest people anxious. So my colleague Jessie and I are doing a program called Creating Calm in a Chaotic World, Stress Reduction Tips and Techniques next Thursday at 2 o'clock. We'll be talking about different things like mindfulness and movement and self-care. And we're going to share helpful resources that can serve as a stress reduction toolkit. And this event is intended for adults and young adults. To attend this, you can email me for a Zoom link at pking@rocklandmaine.gov. That is PKING at ROCKLAND Maine MAINE.gov. And I'm going to just very, very quickly touch on some other things happening. We'll be closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then just a few January events. I want to just basically give you their titles just as a kernel to get excited about them. There's going to be a Camden conference program on January 7th about the Mosaic expedition. If you're not familiar with the Mosaic expedition, it was an experiment connected to freezing a research ship in Arctic ice for a year. So we'll have somebody coming to tell the story of that. And then on January 14th at 6:30, Earl Brecklin, who is an author who wrote a book called Wild, Weird, and Wonderful Maine. He is going to kind of look beyond the lighthouses and talk about just some kind of strange, fun things that happen in Maine. In his book, he has over 300 different places, people, things, and events. So that event is the 14th at 6:30. And I am going to turn things over to Jeremy momentarily, as I said earlier, but you may not have heard. If you have any questions in the evening, if something Jeremy says kind of prompts a question, or if you had a question to begin with, please type those questions in the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I'll be checking out those questions throughout the night and kind of passing them on to Jeremy throughout the night. We are really excited to have Jeremy here. And I first heard about Jeremy because of a high school friend named Paul, who is here tonight. Paul put on his Facebook page a video that Jeremy had made.
There he is!
Yay, Paul!
Legendary Paul.
Yes. And I thought, wow, this guy is pretty incredible, and he's super excited and into Maine. And then I dove a little deeper and watched some more of your videos, Jeremy, and I'm hooked, and I can see why other people are. So thank you, Jeremy, for being here tonight.
I am so excited to be here. And like you and I talked about, there's 1.5 million things going on in the world right now, but I wouldn't miss being here and to be able to hang out and chat with you guys tonight. Just super excited. But that tends to be my MO. And everyone's like, oh, you can't be that excited all the time. But I really do love my life. And I'm so blessed and grateful for the incredible opportunities and the things that are around me. And you know what it comes down to is most of the things in our life can become very mundane. They can become very unexciting if you allow them to be. And I don't want to be one of those people that falls to that layer of complacency and just gets bored with my own life, because there's so much amazingness all around it. And I've traveled all over the world, all across the country. Right now, I'm actually in Mississippi. And there's no place like Maine. Maine is one of my favorite places in the entire world to be. And when I was probably, I'm going to flash back. I'm going to go way back to when I was a wee lad with a shorter beard. Back in the day, which was a Tuesday, I was probably like 18 or 19, and I decided I need to see the world. So I packed a trash bag full of clothes, made 26 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, grabbed my guitar, and I went and traveled across the country for 5 years and backpacked all across Europe. And saw some amazing things, met incredible people, and amazing experiences. And then I came home to Maine, married my high school sweetheart, and now we have 4 amazing kids. So all of that being said, I have traveled, I've been places, and Maine just has such a special place in my heart. And one thing that always kind of irritated me when I was traveling was, no matter where I was, I would talk to whoever was there. I'd head out to the local square, or being out here talking to people, and I'd be like, well, what is there cool to do here? What should I be checking out? Where should I be going? Oh, there's nothing to do here. It's boring. It stinks. And I got so frustrated hearing that, because it was all so new and it was fresh and it was exciting. And one of my favorite places was over in Oregon, and it was just, didn't matter where you were in the forest in Oregon. It just seemed so Dr. Seuss inspired, just the dangling moss and all of those things. But what that taught me was to appreciate what was right there. And then when I came home to Maine, a lot of people were shocked that I came back. They're like, well, why didn't you move here or move there? I was working in San Francisco. They're like, oh, you could have done well there. I'm like, no, Maine is home. And it was the same thing. And a huge part of our day to day is appreciating the beauty that is right in front of us. I've only been doing video for about 2 years now. Actually, this past November will be 2 years full-time video. And it's been the best thing in my entire life, for my mental health, my physical health, just everything. Just to be able to explore and share it with you guys has been such a treat. And I couldn't do it without you guys, without you watching and supporting and actually liking it. I'd just be making home movies for my kids, which I think I'd still probably do anyways. But before that, right before I got into video work, when I came home from Maine, I came back in the middle of the winter time, and there was no work anywhere. And eventually I ended up getting started into construction, and I actually had my own construction company. And then I was consulting for other construction companies, doing sales and marketing. So I was the guy that was setting up all the jobs, doing all the meetings, making sure everything was to code, and knowing about all the building materials and the permits, and just spinning circles. And a massive place that we worked, where we did most of our work, was actually Mountain Desert Island. Those of you from Maine know how amazing and gorgeous that place is. So we had tons of properties that we were working on in Southwest Harbor and Northeast Harbor and Bar Harbor, and hands down, one of the most gorgeous places in the entire world. It is such a phenomenon. It's this rock mountain that's just this crazy island. And I was just still so shocked that in the day to day, like, I'd be driving in and out and around the tides, and just so impressed with what I was seeing that I've seen 1,000 times. And again, just got so tired of hearing people complain about it, because the clouds would come in and it'd be a different sky. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I'm working with construction guys. So I've got a couple guys in the back of my truck, and we're hauling a trailer. Like, Jeremy, we drove past this 3 times today. I'm like, but it's still pretty. And we get so complacent. And what literally changed my life and changed the way that I view the world to this day is a drone. I started working for this company, Middle Tree Construction, amazing guy. And he's like, well, what's it going to take for you to work with me and run my crews? I was like, well, I have a ridiculous request that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I need a drone. And he's like, for what? I was like, well, I'm going to take pictures of the roofs. And I didn't know why I needed a drone. I had no film or video background. I've never flown one, but as soon as I heard about a drone, I knew instantly that I needed one. It wasn't a want, it was a need. I couldn't fathom not having one, and I had no idea why I needed one. And what I started doing is I did just that. I started taking videos of the roofs. I'm about 230 pounds on a good day, maybe 215 right now, but I would always tell the customers, well, I can stand next to you and I can examine your roof with you, or you're going to pay some fat man to get up on your roof and potentially make it worse. So I don't want to damage your roof. And then what I found is as soon as I would get the drone up, I'm standing there with the customer and we're just checking out the scenery. We're just blown away by the mountain ridges or the changing leaves or the ocean view. And it was just mind blowing. And one year we had this decent client, and they had one of the most beautiful properties I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'd probably had the drone for like 3 months, and they were heading over to Europe. And they were like, well, we want to see the progress. So I was like, absolutely. So I started droning each step of the project, and it went from the end of winter to the beginning of spring. It was a massive project. And I put this video together and they loved it. And if you watched it today, it would be embarrassing for both of us. You'd feel bad for me. It wasn't color graded. It was super dramatic, cinematic music, but they loved it because it was their roof. And they actually threw a party. And one, like, they call and they're like, hey, we're showing our roof video and you need to be here. And I'm like, what? And next thing you know, I'm getting other phone calls from local Maine companies to have me come drone. And I am very, very adventure based. I'm very experiential. I always have been from a very young age. And again, coming back to what we we're talking about with people being complacent, I got so tired of everyone saying there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do in Maine. It's so boring that I'm like, I'm going to start a series called Discover Maine. And just to show people that no matter where you are, there's something unique, there's something incredible, there's something different worth seeing, and it's worth your time. And not to take those things for granted, because it's so easy. It's right there. You look out your window. Oh, it's just a endless ocean view with a sunset that happened yesterday. It's still gorgeous. It's still so gorgeous. And I've tried to find kind of obscure things that not a lot of people see. So I literally will travel the entire state because I want to see these things, and I strive to find places that I've never been before, and I strive to meet new people. And again, another amazing thing with Maine is the sense of community and the culture that we have. You know, a lot of people, they don't use social media appropriately, and I've got to give props to for this right here. This is perfect. We're all hanging out tonight. There's a ton of things we could be doing, but right now we're using social media to hang out and to connect. And again, I do want questions from you guys, so please ask away. I want this to be a two-way conversation. I want to get to know you guys. I want to answer some of the questions that you may have. And with it being 2020, it's been a difficult year for everybody. And I had a choice when COVID hit. Like I said, I've been full-time video for 2 years. We're a single income home that I do everything I can. So my wife can be home with our kids, and I can be home with my kids, and we can raise our children. But we do it all off of video. And within 2 days after COVID hit, we lost 80% of our business for the year. We lost 80%. One of them was a documentary I was working on for about 8 months. And it was this coming up 2 days away, maybe 3 days away from the big reveal. And it was this big orchestra piece about the warming sea in Maine. And the Bangor Symphony Orchestra was involved, and the Maine Science Museum, where I traveled and talked to world-renowned scientists about all of this stuff. And it was all to create this music piece portraying that, to make it aware. And all of a sudden COVID hit and everything stopped. And I didn't exactly know what to do. I knew there was no quitting. There was no going back. I knew I had to push forward, but I knew I wanted to continue to reach out and use social media in a positive way. And again, you know, we're talking about a lot of it is social distancing, which can be hard. But again, Maine is one of the most gorgeous states in the country, if not one of the most beautiful places in the entire world. And there's places where you can social distance. And I took a lot of time in prayer and just really thinking about how I wanted to proceed and making these videos. And it just came to me that I just had to give it everything I had. And I had to make sure that I was continuing to do the adventures that I wanted to do. And again, being a father of four, one of the most important things in the entire world to me is letting my kids see me be the best version of myself that I can be. I can do all kinds of things. I could work in an office. I could get back to construction. I could do whatever, but that's not the best version of myself. The best version of myself is out in the middle of the woods, hiking to a waterfall, knee deep in snow, not even sure if I can even get there after I 4-wheel drive 5 miles back just for the adventure, just for that experience, to capture that beauty, to put in that work and to share these videos and these experiences with you. Because to me, I want my children to be the absolute best version of them they can be, whatever that is. I don't want them to be pressed into a mold like, well, this is what you have to do in life. I have 4 kids. Every single one of them is vastly different, and I want them to be the most of them they can be. And for me, the woods has always been a very therapeutic place. If we go way back, getting very personal with you guys, because again, this is social media. You are not strangers. We're here to have an actual conversation and get to know each other and have some fun tonight. So I grew up in Maine, but I grew up in Maine with absolutely nothing. I grew up in Maine without running water and electricity. I grew up in Maine working before I was in 5th grade, and not just like, oh, hey, it's summertime, you need to go to work. Well, no, if you want to be able to pay for the firewood, I need to be in the woods, cutting down the trees and splitting the wood to pay for the wood that's heating our house. If you want food on the table, I'm working. And it didn't dawn upon me at that young age how different that was. But my appreciation for things was vastly different from the people that I grew up with, and just that work ethic. But again, my happy place was always the woods. It was always out camping, because if you're out camping, well, let's be honest, we're all poor. You're in the middle of the woods. You know what I mean? You're fending for what you have. You're fishing, you're seeing these mountains. I don't care what you're wearing or how much money you have or what phone you have. If you and I are hanging out and we're standing on the top of Cadillac Mountain or Mount Katahdin, we're staring out at the endless ocean, that's the same for both of us. And it is an amazing experience. But again, it's how you handle the situations that are given to you in life. And my family decided to take other life choices. Instead of finding the positive, they found some negative. Not to go into too much detail, but 2 of my brothers are dead. And it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. They made poor life choices, and one actually ended his life. One died in a motorcycle accident, and I have 1 brother left, and he's actually in prison. Sorry to get so deep so quick, but the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the road isn't always easy, and you don't have to have everything be easy for you to be happy and to appreciate it. And here in 2020, when there is political unrest, where we're fighting and debating with people that we've grown to know and love, and it's something as far as an opinion on politics or a view on COVID or a mask, and we're letting this destroy relationships. We're losing jobs, we're losing work, we're unemployed, we're not able to visit family that we need. And yeah, could we sit here right now tonight? We've all made this conscious choice to be here to hang out. We could all be on Facebook just writing nonsense and just putting stuff out there that's negative. But instead, we're hanging out. We're making that conscious choice to discover something awesome in each other. And again, so growing up the way I did, the woods were always my happy place. And I do find struggles in my own life. I struggle with depression, where if I can find myself to do something that I'm not meant to do, like we talked about before, I've done the office job, I've done the construction thing, and I am just a grumpy dude. And it's not good for my wife. It's not good for my kids. It's not good for any of you guys. It's about embracing yourself. And I feel like there's a lot of times where we impose rules upon ourselves that don't even exist, well, I have to do this. I have to. You don't have to. There are things that you need to do for yourself. One of my favorite organizations to work with, and again, part of the reason I do videos is I want to share these places that some people can't get to and encourage people to get out and explore for themselves. One of my favorite organizations is Operation Reboot Outdoors. And it is a veteran run organization. It's a nonprofit. And what they do is they work with veterans that struggle with PTSD. The suicide rate for veterans is astronomical. And my buddy Dan, what he found is when he came back from overseas, he struggled very difficultly. And he got back into the woods. He got back out hunting. He got back out fishing. He got back out hiking. And it literally saved his life. And now he's doing that every day. They're taking veterans out hunting and fishing that are struggling, story after story after story after story. Being here, seeing this, experiencing this, getting me out of my rut has literally saved my life. It has changed my mental perspective. I like to use lighthouses as an example for this. I love photography and I love video, and it's such a huge passion of mine that it's part of that mission. It's part of that journey to share it with you guys, to not just go hiking. I enjoy that extra challenge of 40 pounds of camera gear. And how do I do all of this at the same time? How do I bring you to Angel Falls? One of my favorite videos this year for the adventure was I went to Angel Falls, and I thought it was spring enough, but in Maine, spring enough is usually feet of snow in certain places. But I wanted that rushing waterfall. And Angel Falls is one of the tallest in Maine. And next thing I know, I'm literally driving 4 miles down a snow-covered, muddy road where I'm winching out trees out of the road. And they're supposed to be, I get to the start of the hike, and none of the snow is melted. And it's still literally up to my thighs. And there's supposed to be like this little creek you can just casually jump over to get to the rest of the trail. And I get there, and it's over my knees, and it's probably 30 feet wide, and it's a full river at this point, and I'm by myself, and obviously the water temperature is just above freezing. But again, I've done this. I've already driven 3.5 hours to get here. I've already hiked a mile to get into this place. But it's that adventure, and I want to show you guys the textures of the snow. I want you to hear the sound of the river as you're going through your day to day, and you click on that video. I want you to be able to experience a piece of that with me, minus the cold weather, as I had to take my boots off and cut down small birch tree as a balance pole. Like, you don't necessarily need to do that, but again, when you get to that other side and your feet are numb and they're super cold, and you finally dry them off and you get your warm boots back on, well, guess what you appreciate more than you did on the other side of the river? You appreciate those warm feet quite a bit more. But again, it's about that perspective, and it's about seeing that. It's about sharing that. And living on the coast of Maine, we have these incredible lighthouses all over the place. And I love them, not just because they're pretty, not because it's something that is traditional Maine, because a lot of people, they go the opposite direction. They hate lighthouses because, well, Maine and lighthouses and lobster, that's all Maine is. Well, you're wrong. Maine is so much more, but lighthouses are a very important thing. And I did a little video on it called The Symbol of Hope, because they are this light in the darkness. It is this beacon that is shining through whatever storm we may have, bringing people safe to the harbor, safe to the shore, bringing them in, and just standing tall as they're getting pounded and beat with relentless wind and rain. And that, to me, has always been fascinated. And as Mainers, in general, as people, that's life in a nutshell. We are beat with storms, but we can still be this symbol of hope and symbol of strength and symbol of encouragement. And when I talk about photography with people, everyone likes to go to these spots that everybody goes. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I like to see places that other people have gone. Like I said, right now I'm in Mississippi. I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi, filming. And there's a random lighthouse right down the road that's Not nearly as cool as Maine. It's in between two roads. It's weird, but it's a famous photo spot. I'm going to go and I'm going to take a photo 100%. But what I'm telling people when you go to these places is, yeah, go ahead and try to find that position, find that place where you saw that photo that inspired you. Try to stand where that one person was. And the more popular spots like a Nubble Lighthouse, that's it's pretty prominent and you know where it is. But now that you've got that look, you've seen what the person was showing you, you're taking this photo that you might want to share with others, but now look at it differently. Now get down low. Now walk off to the side, go down on the coastline, explore. It's not just the same old, because if you continue to look at these things in your life the same way every single day, it's going to be boring and it's going to be difficult. But again, lighthouses are amazing because that same photo, I could literally go to that same exact spot every day. And I could go for 7 days in a row at that exact same spot at the exact same time. And it's going to be a different photo every single day. The tide is going to be different. The sky is going to be different. All the conditions are changing constantly around you, but to strive to find that uniqueness, to discover that something awesome. One of the videos that I did that cracks me up because people still make fun of me for it, because a radio station picked it up and shared it all over the place. And I got all kinds of random comments. Everyone's like, what is up with this crazy excited hipster? And why is he so excited about trash on the side of the road? And I'm like, okay, first off, I'm not a hipster. I'm a man in Maine that can grow a beard with bad eyes. So the fact that I have a beard and I wear glasses and I wear plaid, that just means are you from Maine? Yes. Okay. Are you a man? Yeah. Okay. Well, you fit the criteria. I getting sidetracked, but what everyone was making me fun of me for, because I was so excited. I was at a meeting to hang a bunch of photography for a hotel in downtown Bangor, and had the opportunity to hang out with the hotel owner, and I was driving him to a meeting actually. And I love shipwrecks. Love shipwrecks. It gets me so excited. It just brings back all of these ideas. First off, how is it, what type of boat is it? What was it used for? Who owned it? Where did it come from? The whole thing. And then obviously, I want to be a pirate. Everybody wants to be like a classy pirate. So it brings me to these situations. And he's like, well, you know about that shipwreck in right down the road. And I'm in Bangor. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, well, yeah, it's like literally like right, it's a half a mile that way. I grew up in the area my whole life and had no idea. And we drive by and he's just like, yeah, just like peek over the bank a little bit. And sure enough, there's a shipwreck. There's a ship mired into the mud, tipped sideways. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I drop him off and I zoom right back, jump down the muddy bank. And it was at this just incredibly unique time of day where the tide was high enough and calm enough where it was like a mirrored reflection of this tipped ship. And I wish I had a photo to put up and show you guys right now, but if you hop on my Instagram or scroll back through my Facebook, you can see it. But it's just this old rusted hull and it's tipped with this reflection. So it's just this mirrored image. And I was so excited. So I had to film it. I got the drone up and filmed all around it. And again, the comments that I got, well, that's been there for years and that's just trash. Well, that's the way you can see it. Or you can be excited about this thing. So the next thing I did is I started researching it. Well, where did this even come from? Why is it still here? Why hasn't it been towed away? And what were all these situations? How did it crash? And it turns out it used to be in Rockland Harbor and it had some ballast issues and it actually started to sink there. And then they floated it back up and then he brought it out to Bangor. And then the guy was known for drinking quite a bit and he was throwing things down. And when he was pulling stuff back in, he didn't pull in all of his rope. And sure enough, a giant, massive ball of rope got wrapped around. And then again, he's right stuck in the middle of the way of the Penobscot and his ship wasn't seaworthy and it sunk. And then by the time they could start to lift it up, it was so stuck in the muck, in the mire, that even at high tide with float bags, they couldn't get the thing up. And to me, I don't know why, it's such a simple story, but I find it so fascinating. And it's still one of my favorite pictures. And every time I see that picture, I look back at jumping through the bramble bushes, sliding down the bank, and standing in the mud and in the cold, taking that photo and making that video. And that's all it is. It was completely unexpected. Was it somewhere extravagant or, exotic? Well, no, it was Bangor, Maine, which, no offense to Bangor, I do like Bangor, but it was stomping grounds for me. It's a place I'm very familiar with. But right there in my very backyard was something that I've never seen that evoked that excitement and that emotion. And that's the point, is that you don't have to be somewhere extravagant. You don't have to build up to these things in our lives, where a lot of people that I still know to this day, and what you hear is, well, once I reach this goal, then I'll be happy after I get this or get that. Or, well, we don't do too much because I'm just saving up for this vacation, and then we'll reach that point. Instead of just taking a moment in there every day on your drive home or your weekend and finding a different hike, but just stop wherever you are and just find a different level of appreciation. A cool spot that I really love is Stonington Deer Isle area. Again, it's just such a very unique, rustic town, and the culture with lobster fishermen, and when the quarry closed, and now it's a very popular artist town. But again, back summer when I was probably like 17, 18 years old, I used to do landscaping, and we used to drive across the Deer Isle Stonington Bridge. And I will never forget this day, because I'm driving this big truck loaded with stone dust, and the bridge is being worked on. And my buddy loved talk radio, and I was a kid and I hated it and didn't understand. And they're doing this random talk about the most dangerous bridges in the United States. And number 3 was the Deer Isle Stonington Bridge, as I'm sitting on the bridge loaded with stone dust. But all that to say, we went back and forth across that bridge all the time doing work. And it's just this gorgeous piece of construction. Yeah, it is a little sketchy, but it is safer now. And when I traveled, when the first time I went across the Golden Gate Bridge, that's exactly what I thought of. I thought of the Deer Isle Stonington Bridge. And when I was traveling, that was one of the places I was really, really looking forward to seeing. I was looking forward to coming out of the tunnel and seeing the Golden Gate Bridge in the Bay Area. And I found it very humorous that it brought me right back to Maine. It brought me back to this green bridge crossing the ocean close to home. My wife is very coastal oriented. She loves the beach. I love the beach, but I would rather be literally just dropped by a helicopter in the middle of nowhere woods to find my way out. That's my happy place. But again, just the calming of the beach, and to be able to take our kids there, and we go to the same beaches all the time. But does the beach get boring? Well, no, because it's still a fun adventure. We can dig, we can build sandcastles. We're looking for sea glass, and now it's a treasure hunt. And my kids like to keep everything. And this is my fault. It's 100% my fault, because I'm not a materialistic guy, but I'm very sentimental. So when I go on adventures, I like to have these little souvenirs, no matter what it is. If it is a profound moment where it is a cool memory in my life, on top of the video, on top of the photograph, I like these little trinkets, this rock, this railroad tie, this fishing hook. And I like to have those in my office. So when we go places, my kids want to take a pile of rocks with them. So all of that to be said, what we'll do is we'll dig a hole and then we'll bury it. All right, well, now you can dig up your treasure on the way back. But there's so much to do, guys, and there's so much beauty out there. And with 2020 being so crazy, again, going into the holidays, winter in Maine can be a very depressing time for a lot of people as well. It's cold, it's wet, it's miserable, is one way to look at it. or you see the world in a completely different way, where you go into the forest, you go to these waterfalls, you go to this coastline, and it's coated with this beautiful fresh snow, and the air has this amazing crispness to it, to get out and explore these things. And I want to challenge all of you that are here hanging out with me tonight, as I often do, is I want to encourage you to continue to do that, not to get stuck in comfort, in complacement. Challenge yourself to do something that you might not want to do. And you might be surprised that you're actually really going to like it, because comfort is another thing that we value too highly. Some of us have been very blessed in life, and we've had a lot of things handed to us. We've had a lot of just incredible gifts. But if we're going to be real, most of us have had to go through a lot of hard things. And most of us, the things that have value in our life have been difficult. And it's always worth it. Again, I'm going to bring you right back to the Angel Falls story. I literally waded across in the middle of the snow and the cold, not prepared to swim across this little river, but the reward on the other side, to see this incredible waterfall and to be able to share it with you guys, it was worth the uncomfort. It was worth the pain. And then as I'm hiking back out after I don't have my snowshoes because I'm unprepared, and that's life. You're not always prepared for everything, but you can still do it. So after doing all of that, the hike in, which was exhausting because not built for cardio, but I knew I still had to go back across the river. But the fear of that uncomfort wasn't going to stop me from doing it. And that's one of my favorite things. And again, there are times where it's easy and it's comfortable and it's amazing. One of my favorite things this year that I did is I actually got a chance to collaborate on a video with a couple guys that almost love Maine as much as I do. And guy's a lobster fisherman. His name is Jacob Knowles, and then went with our buddy Jesse. And they also make cool videos. So if you guys want to check them out, please do. And they saw the video I did on the Allagash, which I'll talk about that here in a minute as well. Because that waterway, yeah, I'll come back to that. I love the Allagash. But again, social media, they saw my video, they reached out, they're like, hey, Jacob actually, he's a pilot and he has a float plane. And he's like, hey, you want to go fishing? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So we get into his float plane, which is something that I've been wanting to do. And it gives us access to these unique places in Maine that I've never been before. And they're both avid outdoorsmen. They're really into hunting and fishing. Like I said, I love the outdoors, but I spend more time filming than hunting and fishing. So when they told me that what we were planning on doing was fishing for one of the most remote and rare fish in the entire world, that is only located in just a few lakes and ponds in the state of Maine. And come fall, as all the leaves and the foliage are changing, this remarkable fish actually turns that brilliant orange like the leaves on the trees. I'd never heard of it. And this fish was originally a fish that came from saltwater. And when there was a bunch of flooding and way back in 1.5 million years ago, what ended up happening is they got landlocked. And the waters in Maine were so pristine, they literally had to be perfect. And they were, and they still are, for this fish to live and thrive. So we had the opportunity to fly into this one spot. And as we're getting ready to land, the water's like glass. And you look down and you can see within the water. And again, I've explored tons of places in Maine. I've been doing it nonstop for years, and I'd never seen water that clear and that gorgeous in Maine. And he's like, well, and we have a family friend that happens to have this random cabin here, and it's off the grid, and we're able to fly in with a float plane and stay at this crazy cabin. Then we hopped in the plane the next day, then we flew out, and then we checked out the ice caves. Which that again is just another remarkable thing that was right there. And then we flew to another pond where we were able to go fishing all day. and just crazy pristine waters. I actually did this at, I think it was the end of September, because it was right before fishing season was done. And we played poker in the cabin the night before. And I was dead set on swimming one way or the other, but we made a poker bet. The loser gets to go swimming. And I totally lost. So I got to go swimming. So as we've been fishing all day, and it's this crazy, beautiful day, but the water temperature, I think, was probably 50 degrees. And as we were coming in with the plane, I remember seeing this old tire, which just blew my mind, because what is it doing out? You can't drive back here. But there was an old dock that someone had created to help boats, and the tire somehow had come off that. It's to keep you from scratching up the side of your boat. But there it was, sitting, probably 16, 17 feet in the water. So I had the opportunity and privilege, since I lost poker, to jump in, and I was able to retrieve that tire. Then we got back out and kept fishing, and the whole time it's just surreal. Again, just, it doesn't matter what you catch. You're just out there exploring, and we're sitting and looking at the base of Mount Katahdin. And I've got a time lapse of the clouds just streaming over the top, and it's peak foliage, and it's unreal. And I actually just put that video out a little while ago. It's a long video, so buckle up if you want to watch it. I got kind of carried away because I really wanted to introduce you guys to how cool these guys are and share more of the experience instead of all the cinematography I typically get super caught up in. But it was unreal. So the spoil alert to the video is we actually didn't end up catching the Arctic char. But we caught some amazing fish, and Jesse did a catch and cook, and just simple but amazing recipes. And growing up, one of the things that I used to love doing, my favorite place on earth, was Mopang Lake. And I would go for 2 weeks, and I would bring a very small amount of food, and everything else you'd have to catch. If you want to eat, you'd have to go fishing. If you don't catch anything, well, guess what? You're not eating. If you're that hungry, guess what? You're going to find a spot to catch some fish. And his recipe was super simple. And he's a very good cook, especially with game, meat, and fish. But he kept it very simple. And it was just lemon and dill. And it brought me right back to my childhood, when I used to go camping out by myself at Mopang Lake. I'd take this old dilapidated canoe. I'd spend half the time casting, half the time bailing out the water, because it was some freebie that someone was trying to throw away that I didn't, I'm young and dumb. It's, oh no, it's still good. It's still good. And there was like this little honey pot where I'd just pull in these just fat perch. And that's how I would cook it. Just a little bit of lemon, a little bit of dill, and throw it on the fire. And again, these moments and these memories in our lives, they hang with you. When I work a 9 to 5, day in and day out, and I don't take any time to actually live, your life is going to pass you by. You don't work to live or live to work. You need to experience your life and not to be afraid of it. Whatever that passion may be. Mine is the outdoors and film and photography. And I feel very, very fortunate that 2 years ago, I decided to take that plunge where, like I said, I was doing full-time construction, and it was doing really, really well. And we had all these babies, and I love my kiddos. We had them very close together. They're 2, 4, 5, and 6. And everyone's like, well, you need to keep doing that because that's what's going to take care of them. But it wasn't my passion. So we took a huge leap to follow that passion, and we've gone all in. And we're not living high on the hill by any means. And it is a constant struggle, but it is a struggle for passion and love. And I have been going nonstop, and I can't slow down, and I won't slow down, because this is what I love. And even when I'm exhausted, and even when I'm tired, this is what I love. Again, that's my job. Right now, I'm doing something very different. Like I said, I'm down in Mississippi. And unfortunately, I just got home to Maine 3 days ago after being away for a month, which is unprecedented. That's not normal. It's an incredible opportunity that hopefully, if you guys do watch my page, my channel, This literally could be a life-changing event that was worth putting in the time for, but I had to come down here and everything happened last minute. I'm following a good friend of mine that I grew up with who is following his passion and he's following his dream, and I'm trying to document it and make a documentary about him. And what he does is definitely not everybody's cup of tea, and it's very different from what I normally do. He's actually a professional bare knuckle boxer. So when he told me that his fight had got moved and it was in Mississippi and everything was last minute, I had to get down here. I couldn't afford the last minute plane ticket, because if you fly out of Bangor, it's going to cost you $1 million no matter where you're going. So I ended up renting a tiny little car and I drove 29 hours straight. And I got here last night and I've been running 1,000,000 miles an hour up into this meeting right here. And as soon as we're off, I'm back running 100 miles an hour. And then, but I'm living my life and I'm loving it and I'm enjoying it. And I want my kids to see that. And I want to inspire others to do the same. Is it comfortable? Is driving 29 hours in a small car by yourself comfortable? Well, no, it's not at all. I drive a full-size pickup truck, and I called every rental place from Bangor to Portland, and the only thing they had was a Toyota Yaris, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it is a tiny shoe of a car. I am 6'2" and over 200 pounds. I feel like I was driving my boot, but I loved it. And I'm here and I'm experiencing this, and it's something different. And again, the importance for me for this whole situation, I'm not here for the violence. I'm not here for the physical fight, but I know this man and where he's been and where he is now in his life and what this sport has done for him and the amount of discipline that it has delivered to him. And it has literally given him his life back. And he's a father, and he ran into some issues years ago, and now he's able to have visitations again. He's a totally different man, and he trains like a madman 6 days a week, and that's what he needs. And this is his passion. So the documentary is more about that than what he does in the ring. Because to be honest with you, right now he's 3-0. He's won 3 fights, all in the first round. So he trains day in and day night, constant. And at this point, I think the longest he's been in the ring is 1 minute and 20 seconds. So put the violence aside, there's that lifestyle that this has provided for him. And just the formula of being able to share this through video, and for his son to be able to see the dedication and the sacrifice that he's made. And this guy, he's from Ellsworth, Maine. Hometown pride. Let's go. We're community. We support each other. We care about each other. You might not understand my passion. You might not love my excitement, but we're community and we're all different parts and pieces. I'm a very excited, exuberant guy. My buddy Chris, he's not as exuberant, but you know what? We make a good team. And that's the whole point of community. And with COVID and everything else in 2020, instead of dividing us, we should be leaning into each other's strengths. And we shouldn't be fighting. Yes, can we have debates? Absolutely. Your opinion and my opinion can be completely different. This is red. We can disagree on that and still be friends. Trust me, I'm married and I'm half colorblind. I see things that are different colors all the time. I'm like, honey, that's blue. She's like, no, that's obviously gray. I'm like, no, it's blue. It's gray. We need to use these things to draw us together and draw closer. And Maine is just this incredible spot. I don't want to just keep talking about it to try to build it up, because if you guys are from Maine, you know, but appreciate what it is that we have and how strong our community can be and how strong our community should be. And doing things like this, I think, are super important. And just getting in touch with the resources that are there. From the tip of Maine to the bottom of Maine, you can see something completely different. I had the opportunity this year. Like I said, I've been extremely busy running around. One of the things that I was doing that I found very unique, that drew me all over the country, I was doing a video, and I am currently working on a video for a transportation company. They run 18-wheelers all across the country. So I'd literally jumped into a cab of an 18-wheeler to hang out with this guy named Jim. He was an amazing driver. We drove down to Virginia, picked up a couple loads, and drove back to Maine. And then as soon as I got done with that, I had to go down to Kennebunkport. And I had the opportunity from an experience from another video I did. I went out on the Victory Chimes, which is a 120-year-old 3-mast schooner that was made out of the Chesapeake Bay, and it is literal history. And last year I had the opportunity to sail on her for about 2 weeks. I made 2 separate videos, which was just phenomenal. And again, living in Maine, seeing Maine, the Maine coastline, sailing on this epic ship and living on the ship was just, it was unreal. And it was just such an experience. Couldn't encourage it enough. Again, a totally different view of the coastline that I've ever seen. And as I'm sitting there and we're sailing into the sunset, if you may, I'm sitting there having a conversation with this great guy. And turns out he works for a company named Flex Seal. And we exchange information. And a couple of years later, or a year later, he's like, "Hey, Jeremy, we're working on this project. And I'm looking for some coastal footage." So I had the opportunity to kayak out on a little pond kayak, because that's what I have, 1.5 miles out to sea to this island to film the coast and the waves and the tides coming in and out. By the end of the project, I ended up being out on that island for 5 days. And I'd have to paddle in, paddle out, and then I'd go about my day, drive back up to Maine, or central Maine, mid-coast Maine, where I live. And then in between, then I was also working on a project up in Caribou for a company that did a massive road project where they redid the main road through Caribou Presque Isle. And just the diversity in between these stages of Maine. And then in the middle of all of that, then I did that float plane trip with my buddy Jacob and Jesse into Western Maine. And it's completely different. And there's something unique. And the culture is just so beautiful in all of these places. And again, every time I was out on that island, the reason I was there, and I was there so often, was because it was different every single time. My experience going out there was different every single time. One of the days I went out there, this isn't necessarily a smart decision. There was a small craft advisory warning, and there were 6 to 9 foot swells, which those of you that have been out in 6 to 9 foot swells in a lobster boat or a bigger boat know that that's significant when you're out on the water. I'm in an old town kayak called an Otter. So, but the whole purpose was to capture these massive waves crashing over this island. So I'm literally kayaking, and I go up, and then I go down, then I go up, and then I go down, and then waves are literally, some of them are so big, the kayak doesn't even make it all the way over, and it just crashes over the top of me. And I went out there and I'm filming, and I'm filming for a long duration, and I'm droning everything. So I've got the drone up and I'm capturing the coastline in this specific rock formation, which might sound boring. And again, if you're like, "Oh, hey, what'd you do today?" "Oh, I film waves." But the whole process of it is just so amazing. So I'm out there filming this rock formation, and I've already been filming for about 2 hours. I've got about 70% of what I need for the day. And I'm very familiar with this location. I'm very familiar with the wave pattern. I'm very familiar with the rocks. And then all of a sudden, this monster wave literally plucks the drone out of the air and takes it into the ocean. Yeah. So I'm out there all alone. My drone is dead. I need this for the project. The waves are nasty. I battled my way out there. So I had decisions to make. I could sit there and I could be very angry, and I could start cursing and throwing rocks, or I could just be like, "Well, that was absolutely insane. I mean, I've never seen a wave that big in this location. I've never seen this or that." And the tide was going down. So I made a conscious decision to make, praying that the waves were going to crash my little gray drone back onto this island. And so I waited and I waited and I waited until the tide got low and saw one of the most phenomenal sunsets that I've seen, period. Open ocean, lighthouse. I have the entire island to myself. The waves are crashing, the breeze is cool. And when I think back at that day, I remember the paddle out and the sunset more than losing the drone, more than the frustration and the challenge of, well, now how do I complete this? And I wear prescription aviators. I have very blue eyes and they're very sensitive to the sun. So when you see my videos where I'm wearing those aviators, if you see me wearing them inside, it's because I've forgotten. So when I paddled out, I had those on and I was going out very light because I'm in a very small kayak and I didn't have my regular glasses. So now the sun is set and it's dark and I've searched the shoreline and there is no drone. And now my phone is dying and I've start paddling out and the sea has calmed a little bit. And now all of a sudden it's dark and I'm paddling back and a wave comes up behind me and it literally feels like someone just grabbed me by the butt and just went boop. Literally tips the kayak. So I'm paddling, paddling, paddling. And then all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere where I'm standing up in the kayak and I just crash over and I roll. And then I'm still probably a half a mile from the shore. And it was incredible. It was awesome. The water was cold. Yep. It was dark. Yep. But I wasn't going to drown. I'm a very confident swimmer. I had the life jacket and that experience again, now I'm in the water and I'm seeing the coastline in a different way. And I'm dragging this kayak to shore because there's so much water in it at this point. I can't flip it over because the waves are too big. So I end up swimming to a rock where I can dump it out and flip it over and get back to shore where I dry off and figure it out and end up heading back out to that island 3 times and love the island. I've got a little spot where I'd sit and I know this little nook intimately at this point. But one of my favorite memories is that day. And it wasn't because it was easy. It was because it was challenging, because it was different. It was unique. It was beautiful. It was powerful. It was cold, but it was amazing. And for the record, I'm gonna brag on Flex Seal here for a minute. So when I was out there, I took a little video of the sunset and I took a picture, and you might actually be able to find that video again on the Facebook page. It's just a video of, I don't even think I told the story of what happened, but it's just a raw cell phone video of the sun setting and the waves crashing for like 3 minutes because it's peaceful. It's just an amazing sound. So I told the people from Flex Seal about my journey, and I have this other little cell phone video of me paddling out and you're seeing the waves smashing over top of the kayak. And then I sent them the sunset and I wrote them a nice couple page or a couple paragraph thing about how I lost the drone. And 4 days later, they'd sent me a new one and it was sitting on my front porch, which is baffling. Like, honestly, I've never worked with a company that I lost my gear to Mother Nature and they're like, yep, no, we got you. And that right there was just incredible. But again, it's about community. It's about relationships. You know, I hung out with this guy on the Victory Chimes sitting on the deck of a ship, and our conversations were just nice conversations between two people that appreciated the outdoors and appreciated what we were seeing and experiencing and the relationship that it's led into with him and I. And again, that's the power of video and photo. They tell stories, they capture moments, they bond and bring relationships. Last year, I had the opportunity to do a video for a couple people in local Belfast. One of the gentleman's name, it's John Gibbs, amazing guy, pillar of the community, retired police officer at this stage. They brought him back out and he's back retired again. But anyways, him and his father have been picking fiddleheads forever. John's got memories when he was a small boy picking fiddleheads. And to me, that was always something that we did. And it wasn't because we loved the taste of fiddleheads, but again, I grew up poorer than poor, no running water, no electricity. struggling to find food. So guess what happens when there's fiddleheads? You go collect veggies. So we went and we would do that. And what was shocking to me was there's so many people that have no idea what fiddleheads are, where they even come from. How do you cook them? And I had the opportunity to go hang out with John because I was talking to someone in a random restaurant, and John actually brought his father, who was one of the first people in the area to make fiddleheads big. And he sold them to the local markets and local restaurants. And we were able to go out to the secret fiddleheading spot and see them. And it was actually the last time that John and his father ever had the opportunity to pick fiddleheads. His father passed away this year with everything going on in COVID. And so to be able to capture that memory, that history, that heritage, that moment, it's super powerful. It's so much more than just random pictures and random videos. There's meaning and love behind every single one I post and every single thing that I do and everything that I share. Social media doesn't have to be a nasty thing. And again, if we're talking about comfort and uncomfort, fiddleheading is, if you've done it, it's not exactly the most comfortable thing. If you watch that video, I jump into frame and I've already been on location for 2 hours picking and filming. And literally I could go like this and get a handful of black flies. They're literally matted into my hair. They're nesting in my beard. Is that comfortable? Of course it's not comfortable. But would I take that day back? Never. I'd do it a million times over. Every single time I'd do it the exact same way. And again, it just brings me back to my childhood, of those memories of being on the river. And it's about those textures. It's about those feelings. It's about the smells. It's about the incredible, unique things that we have. Discovering something awesome, it's right there in front of you. And again, being a father of 4 and a husband, you know, those moments discovering things awesome. I don't have to be out on these grand adventures. It's my children being absolute goofballs like their father. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she's 2 and she is just as cute as a button. And I am very loud. My wife is very not loud. And I make a Wookiee noise. So, you know, sound like Chewbacca. And my youngest daughter will do that. And it just warms my heart. And it's discovering something awesome in the day to day and appreciating those moments and those people that you have in your life. If you focus on the things you don't have, you focus on the goals where you're not there yet, you're going to be discontent for your entire life. But if you look where you are and what you have, when I grew up with nothing, I appreciated it. I loved growing up. I did. I didn't look at my life and I wasn't miserable. I was exploring the woods. I was riding my bike. I was splitting wood. I was getting a strong back. I was out in the blueberry fields eating the freshest blueberries you could ever get. I'm out camping, fishing, and I'm appreciating all of these things. And still to this moment, when I traveled and went all over, you know, whether I was abased or abound, whether I had money or didn't have money, that's not where my joy has been found in my life. It's always been about the people in my life, and it's about the experiences. It's about the things that you can take to heart and that you can appreciate. But I don't know. That's a really long random rabbit trail. It might be a good time to actually answer a couple questions that you guys might have. Sorry for rambling.
Thank you, Jeremy. There are a bunch of questions. So I'm going to start. Tom asked a number of questions before your event started, but I'm going to take one of his questions and ask you. I think you've covered some of the other ones, but he asked, how do you keep track of your creative ideas? Journal, Post-its, index cards, or something else?
So with the creative ideas, there's those times where you get an idea and you're like, yeah, that's cool. And then there's the ideas that you have to do, that you can't not. I couldn't forget it if I had to. one of the videos that I am dead set upon doing that I have zero understanding of how I'm actually going to pull it off is I want to spend 24 to 72 hours out on one of these remote island lighthouses and just experience that life and capture all of that. That's burned into my brain and will never go away. But for the day-to-day ones, I have this leather-bound journal that I typically have with me. And I've got a page that I do that. And I'm not going to say I'm disorganized, but I'm all over the place. So I've got that journal, and then I have one in my office, and then I actually have a couple pages on my phone of just solid notes. And it is important that when I get these ideas that I do write them down. Like like I said, there are the ones that are super burned into me that I have to do. But then there are ones that as I get super busy, if I don't write them down, I will forget. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, oh, I wanted to do, yeah. So typically just writing them down. And to be honest with you, I don't like typing them. I'm very textile, I guess. I like the process of writing them down. I have absolutely horrific handwriting. I've been writing cursive since I was in 4th grade, so I can't write print at this stage. So it's just chicken scratch that I can only read. I sent my brother a 10-page letter a few weeks ago, and he wrote back. He's like, man, I love you so much. I really appreciate the effort you put into it. But me and 5 other guys couldn't read it. We could only make out like a third of it. But yeah, so the journal is where it's at. When you write stuff down, I feel like it helps put it into memory, and it almost just helps kind of put it into fruition.
And we have Ernie who asks, what was your team name at the Toboggan Championships? He loved your video, and they've been participating for 4 years from Virginia.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
When I think about when I first got started, I'm going to totally rabbit trail on you. I will answer your question, but I'm going to rabbit trail first. When I first started doing this series, that was probably one of my favorite videos I did in my first year. Because again, it's literally that. It's true Maine and sense of community that brings people from all over the country, all over the world. You know, it's the World Toboggan Championships were last year. And I didn't have a team. I showed up as some random hairy guy. And I'm like, I want to make a video and I want to show how cool this is. And just by having conversations with people, I kind of made it into fruition where it was a thing. And I actually had permission to grab a sled and go down as many times as I wanted to, which I took advantage of. I probably went down 7 times, 8 times. And I would just walk up the line and I would film, and I was trying different angles. And yeah, and that was incredible. I would like to do it with the team. There are a couple videos. Another one that I wish I want to experience more than document is the Katahdin canoe race. That's another big one up here in Maine. But it would be cool to go with a team and actually try to compete with a toboggan. And it would be really fun to go with a team that wants to put in the work on a toboggan. So that's something I haven't done yet. Both years I just show up as me after talking to the people that are running it. And I just try to find as many cool people, and I have to do it. Like I said, I don't want to just be there. I want to experience it. And again, that's why the toboggan was so fun, because I was able to do that. Like my camera's not with me right now. I actually have it set up somewhere else, but I have this fairly decent setup. I don't know if you've ever seen it in another video, but I'm going down with this full gimbal setup with thousands of dollars worth of gear and holding on for dear life at 30 miles an hour. Yeah, it was great. It was great. If you're there again and I'm there, you have to come say hi. I'll look like this. I might be a little fatter and the beard will be a little longer, but come say hi.
All right. Paul asks how you stay positive, and he says there's so much negativity. How do you avoid, ignore, and deal with that?
Well, and I think a word that stuck out there is ignore. And that's kind of dangerous, you know, and I don't think it's as much of that. Again, it's understanding the situation. And, you know, there are choices that we make in our day to day. And there are things that I can choose to consume, and there are things that I can choose not to consume. It's not necessarily ignoring the issues of the world and everything that's going on, but right now, if I see something that's a debate on face masks and COVID and politics, I'm not giving my time to that, because it's not something that I can change and be a positive impact on one way or the other currently in all of those opinions. And I could continue to chase down that and live in fear for these certain situations, or I can continue to look at the positive and the bright side of it and understanding how much amazing things there are out there. And at the same time, everyone's saying, well, you can't travel, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do, well, yeah, you can. And again, there's so much false information. So finding truth, and in my life, I've always found more joy and freedom in happy, encouraging, and positive. And that's my truth. I'm not saying I'm always at 10, I do have my bad days. And when I'm having those moments, again, my lifestyle is super important. I have discovered the best versions of me. So when I do start feeling like I'm getting depressed, when I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, that's nature. That's outdoors. That's the ultimate equalizer. Again, my happy place is in the middle of the forest. Love being in the woods. Absolutely no better place. I want to be in the woods. I want to be camping. I want to be hiking. And even if it's not deep, remote forest, but when you're in the woods, none of that is an issue. You realize you are there, and you're able to slow your thoughts, and you're able to appreciate that glimmer of light that is coming through the branches after the sun has just come up, or the texture and the colors in the leaves in the fall, or right now in Maine, that beautiful, fresh, pure coat of snow. And you can focus on those things. And then focusing on, again, being the best version of you for others. Be that symbol of hope. Be that symbol of strength. Don't get dragged down by all the dark and all the negative. Be that light. What's that saying? Like, the candle shines brightest in the dark. Just because we're surrounded by darkness and negativity doesn't mean there's not room for that positivity. Be that. Strive above it. Get out of that comfort zone. Find whatever that happy place is for you. Find something that gets you away from that. And again, for my wife, she loves the ocean. That's her thing. And don't get me wrong, I love the ocean as well. The beating and the pounding of the waves on the rocks and coming into the shoreline, it's very therapeutic. And even if it's literally a minute, literally get outside, put a jacket on, put some warm clothes on, and just go stand in the woods for a minute. Go for a little hike, taking that fresh, clean air. It changes the perspective drastically. It doesn't have to be these big, grand acts, but it's these small things and choices that we make time for in our life that makes that difference. Again, driving home, stop at the beach, stop on the coast, stop and go for a 2-minute hike, sit on a bench. That stuff makes a huge difference. And obviously, people, social media, family, friends, reaching out to each other and encouraging each other. When you are feeling low, being able to reach out and talk to people. I feel like a lot of that is something I'm very grateful for, where I have a good support system for a lot of the people that I've met, and I live my life trying to be as open and honest as I can. And I don't do it to be that weird guy that overshares, but I value true friendship and true relationship, and I don't want to have walls in the way. So being able to reach out and to have a conversation with someone where, dude, I'm having a terrible day. I can't get out of my own head. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm just stressed. Just to snowball it with somebody and just to bounce back. It's huge. It's huge.
Thank you. Jenna says your videos are some of the best on YouTube, in my opinion. Are you totally self-taught, or did you seek advice or anything to find your style and learn the craft?
I went to school for 75 years in Italy. And that's how I was professionally trained. Back when I started making videos, we actually used to have to draw out every frame, and then we'd have to, do the little flip book. No, I'm completely.
You look amazingly young.
I might not be a good looking guy, but for 85, I'm doing okay.
Yes.
No, I'm self-taught. So it was that weird thing of necessity that when I started flying the drone, I was just blown away by the beauty. literally changed the way I saw the world. And just even without the drone being in the air, going to a situation and understanding what that topography could look like. And I needed to share it somehow. But I had no idea how. And droning was something that came fairly naturally. That was actually one of the things that I picked up faster than anything else in my life. And I wanted to share that. But then it started being limiting to tell the story, to show the textures, to show the close-ups, to interview the people. And I wanted to do it. And I went all in, and I did a ton of research, and I bought an okay camera. And I was like, I need this camera to pay for itself because I can't afford it. And it was $1,000. And I'm like, I don't have $1,000, but I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And next thing I know, I'm just completely addicted. And I do consume a lot of content on YouTube. I feel like it is important to see other content. And there are some creators out there that I definitely like a lot. And for some of like the basic editing skills, like how do I even import a video to this program? How do I do X, Y, and Z? Yeah, I looked up a lot of tutorials. And I'm actually, if all goes well, it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, is I want people to be able to do the same thing. And I want to start a tutorial series on my YouTube channel, just super simple, basic camera tricks, not tricks, but understand how to use your camera, how to use your editing software, how to get over some of the obstacles of cost, and just chase that passion, because there's a lot of it that it just takes so much time. It takes so much time, and people don't see that. Like the Allagash video, the Allagash waterway video, I think I had over 120 hours editing that video. And it's not like 120 hours over a month. It's like I'm starting to edit this video and I'm obsessed with this video until it is done. And my wife is literally a superhero to put up with it, because I get stressed out every time because I'm like, it's not good enough. It's not lit right. And I wish I could have captured this. And I'm a one-man guy. I'm filming and editing all of it. But it's passion and it's art. So when you want it bad enough, you're going to spend the time to do it. And as with every video, I feel like I learn something different and my style continues to progress. And there's so much more that I want to do, and I'm not even close to where I want to be, but I'm super grateful that you love the videos. And that means a lot. It really does. I've got big plans. I've got great big plans.
And I am going to round out the questions with a question from Brainiac, and he's asking, have you ever hiked the Appalachian Trail?
Oh my gosh. So this is, quick answer is no. The embarrassing part, it's very embarrassing, is I was not aware of the Appalachian Trail when I started traveling when I was younger. I learned about the Appalachian Trail when I was sleeping in a teepee in a pumpkin patch in San Francisco. True story. That's another story for another time. And I became obsessed with it. And I wanted to do it so bad. And I still want to do it so bad. And when I came back from my travels, I ended up getting married and have my amazing family. And it just hasn't been one of those things that makes sense at this juncture in time, but it is 1000% on my bucket list of something that I have to do. And another embarrassing thing about me is I have never hiked Mount Katahdin, because I am obsessed with the idea of one day being able to hike the Appalachian Trail. And I may end up not following through with this, but my whole reasoning for not hiking Katahdin is because I wanted my first time to be when I complete the Appalachian Trail. And now that I'm into video, there's a whole new brainchild where I want to document the trip. So I've got to figure out a way to get all that done. And it'd be cool to be able to bring people on these adventures. And another thing that I'm super grateful for is, I do realize that a lot of these places and these experiences that I do, not a lot of people have these opportunities, and I'm grateful for them. And I put in a lot of work to make them happen. but there are things and places and physical aspects where people might not ever be able to do them. And again, why I want to put so much time and effort into creating these videos to share it with them. So if you're not into, you don't ever think you're going to go ice climbing, well, I can tell you it's pretty rugged, but I want to show you the video of it, of some fat hairy guy wearing plaid ice climbing. You know, I want to bring that experience. So I haven't hiked the Appalachian Trail, but I 1000% want to do it. I have no idea when or how. Maybe a sponsor will come up one day and be like, yes, we want to help facilitate this. And they can meet me at checkpoints and switch out camera gear, and I'll randomly just get in shape and do it in 3 months. But yeah, I would love to do it with my kids too. That would be fun. But yeah, so no, long answer for a 2-letter word, but
Jeremy, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule and speaking tonight and speaking your truth and sharing your passion. And thank you also, I think it was really important. One of the things you said, many things were important, but just talking about and suggesting to people to get outside just for a few minutes a day, because, you know, those little things add up. And those are little adventures in themselves. So, and they mean a lot, and they change definitely your attitude and spirit. And Jeremy, I want you to make sure we have lots of things in the chat. So definitely check those out.
oh, nice.
And thank you again for coming tonight. And thank you everybody else for coming. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their evening. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you guys.